this week, we are diving into justice. Humor wasn't that deep, but we're getting a little deep when we're talking about justice. And this one, as all the concepts are really special to me, this one is special in particular because when I came to understand the gospel, it was this concept that really kind of just blew my mind because I never really understood justice in a biblical sense, a true sense of what justice entails. So this one has a special place in my heart, and so I'm glad to be joined by yet another special guest. I'm proud to be at a church where I've got members who not only present the gospel but live it out. So I'm honored to be here with yet another member from Vision Church. I would even say this individual is a pillar of the church. He has a strong emphasis on discipleship and the leader of the community groups. Has a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful children, just a good husband and father, and someone who even though this is kind of the first time we've actually hung out, but I've heard a lot about, a whole lot about, so I'm proud to be joined by this man right here, Rob Rolak. How are you doing this evening, my brother?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. I realize this is the first time, we got to change that, man. We live 3 minutes on the road for each other, so we gotta get it in more, man. We gotta get up. But yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. I'm grateful. I was honored that you asked. I had the book, I've read some of the book, and I really am an aspiring author myself, and have gotten stumped so many times over the last 4 years of trying to finish different things. So I was just amazed, man, that you wrote it, you finished it, you published it yourself. I'm extremely in awe of that, man, and I respect that a lot. So I respect the concepts of the book and how you dig through them. I think it's good, man. God really used you.
No, I appreciate that, and nothing but the Lord, because I was just telling you earlier, I'm not a big reader. This was something that God put on my heart, and I'm like, wait, I got 300 pages of this, and I was like, man, let me make it into a book. We live in a day and age where it's just DIY, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me do it myself. I didn't really grow up in the church. I just heard the gospel, and just upon hearing the gospel, you just have no choice but to communicate it to others, and that's just my one desire. And just being at a church where I've got the opportunity to do that, just laboring with other individuals like yourself. So I'm honored. I'm thankful that someone would just come alongside me and just say, hey, I believe in what you're doing, and let's try to communicate the gospel to those who are willing to listen. So that's what we are going to do this evening. Like I said, we're jumping into concept number 15. How is justice determined? And I wanted to start with this because we use terms and we really define what these terms mean, because I think majority of us know what justice is, but how do we define it? And I just gave just the basic dictionary definition. I say justice is defined as the quality of being fair and reasonably, and that's just point blank what it is. We just intrinsically know we ought to treat others rightly and fairly. And I wanted to start with this question because, as I said earlier, you have 2 children, a son and a daughter. I have a daughter myself, but I always find myself, hopefully, Lord willing, when I have a son, just battling with this tension of, I think with my daughter, I'll be a little bit more protective over her, or even when it comes to discipline or even affection, I'll be more protective and affection than with my daughter than my son. And I kind of find myself, am I being unjust with that? Now you have, and even though your children are younger,
Yeah.
I wonder, is that a reality, or you because we know you ought to treat your children equally, and I wonder, is that a reality in your life?
That's a great question, man. Anybody that knows my son, they know he's a great kid, but he is an entertainer, to say the least. He probably would have really enjoyed last week's session. But my daughter, she's a little more serious, and even though she's really young, she's only a year old, she has this smile, man, that will melt your heart away. So it is a reality of wrestling with, there's things that my son can do, and I'm very quick to discipline, very quick to, address it. And then my daughter, she may do something similar or do something that my son did when he was 1 year old. And I'm not as quick to give reminders on why she shouldn't be doing that. So I think there is an element of that, but at the same time, I think my son's heart and my daughter's heart are completely different. I think the way that my son approaches things and his determination, his persistence, his personality, his rebelliousness at times is very, very different from my daughter's persistence and rebelliousness and her personality. So with my son, he's the one who, at 1 year old, I would tell him, hey, don't throw food off your plate. And he'd look at me, kind of tilt his head with a little gangster lean, pick up his food and drop it off the side of the plate and look at me like, and what?
Puzzle move.
So because I began to learn, okay, he understands and he knows, but he's one that's gonna test the limits all the time, every day. Whereas my daughter, I tell her, hey, don't drop food off your plate. And before I can finish talking, she's lip poked out, eyes swelling up, tears just falling down her face. So because I see those differences, I love them the same, but I am going to discipline them differently. I love them the same, but I am going to address their disobedience differently, because my daughter doesn't need as many reminders as my son does. My daughter, I can talk to her sternly, and she's right back in line. She just wants to please mommy and daddy. But my son, I can talk to him sternly, and he's like, okay, can I go play with my toys now? It's like, you didn't get what I was saying, so let's have a little bit longer conversation about this. So it is a reality, it's a struggle, but I think we also have to remember that disciplining differently doesn't necessarily mean treating unfairly.
Now, and I think that's a good point, because that was something that I was like, hopefully Lord willing to have a son, and it's like, I wonder, because like you said, just daughters with the fathers is just, it's different.
It's real.
It's different. I don't know how to explain it, but it is. And I think, like you said, just understanding the individual and just making just general statements. I think boys are a little bit more rambunctious than girls, so they need a little bit more structure, a little bit more discipline than the daughters do. But I just wanted to throw that out just as an opening question, just to see what it would be. And it kind of flows into when we're asking the question, how is justice determined? And I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of someone who doesn't share my worldview, because I can easily answer, who determines justice, and we'll get to that. But I just want to take people who don't necessarily believe what I believe, hold to the truths that I hold to, and say, hey, how do you determine justice? And just on a basic level, just you determine it individually. Just, like I said, you're a father, I'm a father. I can't come into your house and tell you how to discipline your kids, and likewise vice versa. However, there is an extent to where someone can go, because we live in a day and age where some people go too far. And I don't want to speak for you, but I can probably assume, or maybe I shouldn't, that you were probably disciplined, as a child, and I was disciplined. And if someone were to see how we were disciplined, it would raise flags. I was a rambunctious kid, always getting into trouble at school. My parents didn't play that. I got the belt. This day and age where we have, that fine line of what's too far when it comes to discipline. So even though I can't say, hey, don't do timeout or discipline, whether it's smack on the hand or however form of discipline, I can't come into your house and tell you how to do it. So in a sense, you kind of are the law in a sense in your household. But like I said, when it comes to the point where we get into the area of those who go too far, we've got other things in place where we've got, state and federal laws that dictate, hey, this is too far. If your child coming to school with bruises on them, that's too far. They call, I forget what the Department of Child Services on you. So even though you have the right to lay down the law in your house, there's still an element of accountability that you just have just on, a state and a federal level. And so just from those general observations, we determine justice on an individual basis, on a collective basis. But I go in debunking that. I'm kind of curious, and I didn't know if you had any opinions on, is there anything wrong with that? Is there any flaws in determining justice on an individual or a collective basis? Is there anything wrong with doing that?